And then Electronic Arts happened.
Well, I guess I have to get the worst out of the way first, I guess. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you couldn't tell by the title or the opening video, I am watching, or I just watched EA's press conference for E3. I've written down which games they showed off. It wasn't a lot this year, but it was nonetheless painful. So I have my list, but before that, I'm going to just say what I thought of the conference as a whole. Boring. That's essentially how much I can say about it. It was boring. Very, very boring. Nothing exciting was announced, really. Some things were infuriating, some things were expected. Gameplay, there was almost nothing. So here we go. They started with Titanfall 2. Does anyone remember Titanfall at all? You know, anyone? I certainly had a hard time remembering what the hell Titanfall was. Yes, that was sort of a game that was announced and then it was never mentioned again. I mean, I know it came out, but nobody really paid attention to it. Probably for the best. It didn't look all that interesting. And again, if you know my preferences in games, which I've stated in the previous E3 coverage, I am not a fan of first-person games, and this looks exactly like that. So, yeah, not interested. Sports. Madden 17. I do not care in the slightest. Hold on, I just need to fix something. It's a sports game. It's American football, which I already don't care about. I mean, I don't care about most sports in general, but least of all this. I didn't care in any way. It didn't look like the crowd cared either, and they spent a lot of time on it. I mean, not as much as an other sports game, but I'll get to that. And Mass Effect Andromeda. It looked okay. I am not entirely too interested because I haven't played a Mass Effect game, and the reason for that is that I know they are probably really good games. It's just the gameplay looks really, really bad. Like, it looks like a pure cover system the entire game, and that looks really dull. So, yeah, not too interested. Then they had a little segment where they talked about updates on games that are already out. I think they talked a little bit about sharing some profits with charities. Yeah, it's nice if they give something to charities, but there are no EA games out there that I really am that interested in. Then we got to the big bore of the entire conference, FIFA 17. I think that's the one they spent the most time on, actually, and at least it felt like it, because they had people come up on stage and talk about it twice, actually. One talking about the story mode they're gonna have in it, one talking about the managers being involved. Isn't that great? Talking about the tournament they're gonna have. They spent so much freaking time. No, wait, the tournament was for Madden, I think. Either way, it was sports all around. Yeah, I do not care. I do not care about any of this. I played FIFA maybe a few times before, and it's not interesting. I'm not a fan of football at all. So yeah, don't care. Then we had. Then they talked about working with some indie developers, and they showed off a new game called Fee. I think that was the name of it. It looked kind of generic indie title, very sort of that, just not that interesting in the slightest. So, didn't care. Then we got the announcement that pissed me off. Star Wars announcements. They announced some updates here and there, stating some games they're going to be making. Some updates to an iPad game called Galaxy of Heroes, I think that was the name of it. They announced that one of the developers are working on a third-person game. Could potentially be good. I need to see it first. And then a new Battlefront. Building on the foundation of the Battlefront game they already have out. Or Battlefront game. And what were they saying were the innovations that they were? They said, oh, we're going to listen to you fans. We're going to bring in what you want. Which, of course, is content from the new movie, right? No. 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 That was not what I was after. If you want to make a proper excuse for what you did with the previous game, you need to make something that is pretty much Battlefront 1 or 2 remastered. Essentially just updated graphics, nothing else. I don't want anything. Or most like, or kill off the franchise. That would be good too. Just leave Battlefront. Just either stay faithful to the original games or leave it. Or here's a thought. If you were going to make this new game, maybe you could do one of the biggest problems with the game, which was the fact that there was very little support for local play. Essentially, if you weren't playing online, tough shit, you got a subpar piece of crap. All the special modes, online. It asked you for an EA account and online things all the time. You would barely spend any time. The maps were shorter in single player or cooperative local multiplayer as well. I tried that out with my brother and there was nothing there. That pissed me off so much. And that's not all. I mean, there were problems. A lot of people said spawn points was a big issue, where you were basically spawn killed the entire time. You know, very different from how it was in the original Battlefront games, where you had command posts that you could just spawn on. You could basically go tactical where you were supposed to go. You could have potentially done that. Class system, where was that? Where was all the class system from the original games? Space battles, where were those? Galactic Conquest, where was that? Where was everything that made it a good Battlefront game? Why are there so few planets to explore? Why is a lot of the big planets locked up on DLC? Why was there a $50 DLC costing almost as much as the freaking game? EA, there were a lot of problems with the with your version of Battlefront. or whatever. It just, I'm getting really angry right now, but that game is one of the most is one of those I knew it wasn't gonna be good because EA, but I was a sheep. I really wanted to believe that they made at least a subpar decent game that they could work on. But they didn't. They made a shallow skeleton where they mixed up the bones so it didn't work quite well of what Battlefront used to be. Fuck you, EA. Fuck you. I need to move on. I need to get ready for Bethesda. I don't know when they're having their conference. Let's see. Battlefield 1. Essentially, it's a new Battlefield game set during World War I. As far as I could tell, it was a first-person game, and I don't care. So there you go. Boring conference. Not a lot of exciting games to announce. EA, you did not disappoint. You're still one of the worst conferences all year. If I were to rate the conference, see, it took forever, but like you were delayed when you started. You spent a lot of time on FIFA 17, but I don't really want to say a 1 out of 10 just because at least you showed off something that might be interesting, like Mass Effect Andromeda, perhaps. And really, I guess I can't fault you all that much for Battlefront, because that's more me personally being a huge fan of the original games. So the fact that you are, but I know the game sold at least somewhat, so it sold decently enough, so I guess I can't fault you for that. I'm not gonna buy it until I see some gameplay of it, and that it's looking like it's going to fix all the problems I have with the original game. But knowing EA, they're probably gonna slap all that I want in the DLC pack and just ignore what I want. Just ignore what people want from that game. So I guess I can just say 2 out of 10. Not the worst conference I've ever seen, Square Enix, but it was pretty bad. Pretty boring, and you didn't show off a whole lot of interesting things. But hey, there have been worse. Okay, Bethesda, you're next. Hopefully you can have a just about as decent conference as you had last year.